Wood Shack. And today I thought I'd show you a little bit of twists and turns on how to do a offset Christmas tree. Now, yesterday I did somewhat of a Christmas snowman. Um, so that one had a little bit less of a bend in it, an arc, so to speak, than the one I got today. Today, this one's a little bit different. Um, so, anyway, as you can see, it's offset. Okay, so now here's the thing. First off, when I look at a vlog like this, I go, "Do I want to cut it straight?" I could put it on my miter saw and cut it so that the ends are straight, but I didn't want to do that. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to make the tree lean. So what I did is from dead center, top dead center here, and top dead center here, I dropped this down and I brought this up. And now what I'm going to do with this, it depends on how well it's turning, because this, I'm going to have to go, since this is a wide piece of here, I'm going to have to take a lot of this out. So the bark is probably going to go. But down here, what I want is the way, as far as the base, I want the base to lean. So the tree should be like this. I don't know how that's going to turn out, but I thought I'd try it and see. Now, here's the thing: when you're doing offset turning like this, you got to be absolutely sure that your tools are tight and this is tight. See now how close that goes? It got a little bit far. Okay, so some of your tools here, for instance, where I'm going to use a tool here, you got to be able to adjust to it a little bit with it. All right. So the idea is to make sure you don't hit it. All right. So that's a constant. The other thing is, since it's offset, I've got it down to about 1,000 RPM, and I could go lower. If it gets to the point where I think I need to be safety wise, that's what I do. Because when you're doing it, now you got the center of gravity thrown off, and that's what you don't want to have. So the ideal way is to find a piece of wood like this that's curved. But see, you could do the same thing. When you could take a piece of log like this, you could cut the log to an angle to make everything lean and then work off of that. It just takes a little bit of time to do it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start off, and what I want to do, this is the bottom. That's the other thing. When you pick out a piece of wood, which is going to be the top and the bottom. Now, this is supposed to be a tree, a Christmas tree. And we'll see how this turns out. The other thing is, if you think you're going to keep the bark on when you do this, no, it ain't going to happen. So the only thing I think I'm going to have the bark on is the bottom part. But I want to be careful now how wide I want to make this thing, because from here to here, there isn't much. This little bump out here, I want that to stick out. So it's about here, probably about 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch. Leave this, and the rest of it you can work off of. And this is all in my head. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no graphics or anything. I don't get into that. I just do. Okay, so I'm going to start out with this tool right here. And this is the one that makes a groove in it. It's groovy, baby. Groovy. So what I'm going to do is go down in here a little ways. And I got to be careful. See, there's a gap right here, right? So that's the only problem with doing this way, because you can't, you're leaving this. So you kind of have to work with it a little bit. So sometimes I might even do this instead, because, and that's the thing, you got to be careful with offset doing this. You see how close, see how far away it is? So you got to have a medium somewhere. You're not going to butcher the thing. So we'll see how this works. It might be a little bit dangerous doing this way with a short piece. You know what? I think I'm going to use this instead. See, now when you're offset, the furthest away, this is the closest, the furthest away is not going to get the cuts. So you got to kind of play with it until you get it where you want. So that works that way pretty good, okay? So trying to get this to lean to one side. What I want to do with this now is I want to do this. Maybe. Maybe, baby. You see how far away that is? See, now, you know you're going to take a lot off in here doing this. So the idea is when you get to a certain point, you don't want to take too much off here and not enough here. So this is where you got to move things back and forth. So I'm going to do a little bit more. Now, see, since this isn't going to be a very wide tree, oh, now that I got the bottom where I want it a little bit, I can start working on this. So the idea is to carve this down to a point. All right, you're already leaning a little bit. So when you're taking a certain amount out, you got to move. Again, it depends on which way you want the thing to lean. You want it to, you got to move the top or the bottom from top dead center, which is, well, car talk, from the center of your tree. All right. So the idea here is if you want more out of this, all right, you move this down to the center. You move this, up to the center, and you move this down. You see? You see? So now, typically when I do a Christmas tree, I do them where they're at an angle. So this one's kind of different. It's not going to have too many branches. I'll probably have 3 different things. So you got to map them out. One here where this groove would be and one here. Because that's all you have much left. So you got to make sure that when you're doing this, that you narrow the middle down. So So now you know that you're going to lose all the bark. So the idea is to leave a perimeter like I'm leaving there, and then get to this. This part's going to be a little bit different because of the way it's set. But you got to narrow it down enough and to make it look good. Now the idea with these, I always put like a star on top. So feel free to hit me up if you want to be a guest on here. Side by side or something. Ask questions. I'd be glad to help you. Now, as I'm working it, I'm doing an upwards motion into here to make a little bit of a groove. And I've got other tools I use for that. So, but this one is this one is going to turn out pretty good, actually. Now you see what I'm getting at here? I'm doing a little bit of curve. And it's the same thing here. I curved here. So I want a little bit of a ring. Now here's the problem with this stuff. All right. Is that you got to be really careful. I could probably leave a little bit more. If I had more room, I probably would be. The bark will come off. And sometimes what I tend to do is take tape. So now I'm notorious for this. I love duct tape, but I love tape. Okay, so you don't want to put the sticky part down because that'll pull anything that's loose around. Okay, so what you want to do is do that. And then go like that over the top, right? And then you flip it. And the reason you flip it is it'll tighten it up. It'll tighten it up like that. All right. So, but see that's kind of what I do. The problem with this now, I can see right off the bat, it's not going to work because and see this, usually what I do is I start this off before I even start grooving it. I have to put tape on it. Then I put pencil marks on it and that kind of stuff, you know. Man, this tape is stubborn. So I usually cover the whole thing up with tape and I go from there. Any questions? So, I gotta finish this booger. See, the idea here, okay, the idea here is to do an offset. Now you see, this is, I want it to lean this way a little bit. So you could do, actually, I'll leave it the way it is. See, this is where I can't make my mind up. Anyway, so now I also have tools here. These tools here get into, you can get underneath like this, but in order for me to do that, since they're right-handed, I have to go turn it around the other way so that these are facing that way. That way I can get into it, but I don't need to with this. I think I'm good with that. So. Well, see, you got the idea? You see how I'm doing this? Now here's where it gets a little tricky because you're very at the end of this, all right? So there's not too many tools I could use in that. What I usually use is something that's a little bit smaller, and well, I could use this thing right here. But you see, you don't have a lot of room right here, right? So you gotta, I need to narrow that down. So what I usually do is I get to a point and I'll just cut it a little bit at a time, and then I'll take it off and do it on the drill press. You see, that's about, it sinks inside here. There's a little pin in there, so it keeps it compressed. So now what I'm doing, the last thing I want to do is smooth this out a little bit. So, and then trying to make a little bit more deeper groove like I did here. And there is what I call a Christmas tree. Now, you can make this any way you want to make it, and I know I'm going to put a star on the top of it. But you see, it's an offset Christmas tree. And what I'll do is I'll sand all this, a little bit. But yeah, and you can put a star at the top, which I will. It'll be a bigger star than normal. But the thing that's tricky about this part is a lot of times it gets to the point where you see there's a little dot in there. You don't want to press your luck on it get too far. And I can get down a little bit more, but I don't want to make too much here, because what might happen is it splits. That's the last thing you want. So it's actually easier if you take it up on the. I have a couple of disc sanders I can use it, but yeah, that's my Christmas tree right there. So what I do now is I'll put it back on here again. And I gotta get all this. You gotta keep constantly cleaning your tools too. This thing, I've been going mad at it together since the last couple of days trying to get some stuff caught up. And anyway, now what I'll do is I'll sand this. I'll sand this a little bit. And you don't need to, see, that's the thing, when you're doing this too, you got to be careful when you're sanding it, you don't take too much bark off. So you kind of want to stay away from the bark. All you want to do is just smooth this out a little bit, Now, if you want to get creative, you can make grooves in it. I've actually made fake lights and put on there. This is the tricky part, man. You gotta be careful with your fingers. You don't bite things. See what I'm saying about the bark? So that's the only part. You get to the point where you want to get it to where you have it, and then try to keep, when you're sanding it, try to keep away from the bark as much as possible. There's no easy way to sand it, you keep the bark on it. And then what's nice about this, because I want the rough cut, right? So I'm just gonna go, as soon as I get this done real easy, I have to cut this off. I'm gonna put this back in there so I'll forget. Like this. Now what will happen here is I'm going to go see what it looks like now. It's pretty simple. This is a piece of red oak. So when you go to make this, one of the biggest things is I got to get a sanding disc, but you see how it leans? See how it leans? Now I could make it lean further, but I didn't want to get too carried away, because this one I have the a star on the bottom of it. But see, you can move them in different spots. That's my segmented. That's my leaning Christmas tree. Simple. There's branches I use. Okay, here's another one. Here's another one. You see how that curves? That's kind of like when I did the snowman. You could do the same thing. You could do the same. This one's a little bit skinnier than that one was, but not much. You could make, but it's taller. But see, right off the bat, first thing I would say is I would probably cut this one because it's got this, just a hair, so that you see how it leans? But I want to get this. It leans a little bit. I don't know if I can make it go that well. See, that's the other thing. You gotta be careful of the pit. You could, when you get it on your circular saw or your miter saw, you can basically cut this in any direction you want. It's another piece of red oak right here. Nice stuff. Now this kind of wood here, it's a little bit different. Now you can see the bark's been off of it. And I like to keep bark on, but unfortunately sometimes it's not. But you see this decay right here. That's what they call spalting. All right, so I treated this with what they call anchor seal so it wouldn't split. But the one thing that people tell you is you go this way, this is going with the pith. You want to go against the pith. Well, I've done it both ways, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I'll give you an example why I say that. Whoops. Same kind of wood. El Splitzo. It is a split personality. This is what happens when you go with the pith. And it's not dry. Okay, so my big problem now is this has been sitting for a while. So what I need to do is start putting these in my kiln. And once I put these in my kiln, let them take a certain amount of moisture out of it, I'm good. All right, so anyway, that ends my segment of doing Icelandic offset Christmas tree. Hope you enjoyed it. Questions or comments are always welcome. And if there's anything you want to do, you want me to do, you want to see something crazy, let me know. I'll be doing challenges here in another month. Next month, I'm going to start a challenge for the next 3 months to make your own Christmas presents. Let's see what we all can come up with. Maybe there's a prize in there. Maybe I'll make something that you guys I could give to whoever the top dog might be. We all have to vote on it. I have to figure out a way how to do this. But anyway, you guys have a great Tuesday. I've got to get to working on some other stuff. I had to finish some other snowmen. I got to go put the faces on and all that kind of stuff. So, guys, have a great day. Again, if you're not making sawdust, you're not being creative. So get with the program. God bless. Have a great day. And yeah, God bless America.